Musa al-Gharbi is a sociologist at Stony Brook University's School of Communication and Journalism. His first book, We Never Woke Up: Social Justice Discourse, Inequality, and the Rise of New Elites, will be published by Princeton University Press. The contemporary GOP base increasingly consists of Americans who perceive themselves as losers in the knowledge economy and who feel distant and distrustful of mainstream institutions. The party, and especially the rebel movements, are increasingly supported by small businesses and family capital. In the contemporary Republican Party, multinational corporations, foreign powers, bureaucrats, etc., there are candidates who seem committed. They are often suspect and very vulnerable to rejection by the contemporary GOP base. Musa al-Gharbi, Neil van Niekerk Indeed. Among 13 candidates making bids for 2024 Republican nomination, only remaining mainstream or establishment candidates as they head toward actual ballot is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Republican base, and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. 3 other candidates are trying to describe themselves as populists even though their economic policies are essentially the same as mainstream GOP orthodoxy. Florida Gov. Ron DeSantis, entrepreneur-turned-bestselling author Vivek Ramaswamy, and former President Donald Trump. Among establishment candidates, Haley is the only candidate with a reasonable shot at nomination. But as last week's debate made clear, Haley may be quite vulnerable to concerns about undue influence of the establishment and other bogeymen of Republican base. As her rise draws greater scrutiny, those perceptions could harm her already long-term efforts to dethrone Trump, clear frontrunner for the Republican nomination whose shadow lingers heavily over debate despite his physical absence. Indeed, GOP's emerging nominee finds himself in a difficult dilemma. Many NeverTrump Republicans, foreign lobbying groups, major financiers, and even some Democrats have begun to coalesce around him as only remaining candidate with a reasonable chance of pulling off upset on nomination. The resources provided by these major donors are essential to getting name message out there and expanding his campaign operations nationwide, especially since opponent is someone who receives dozens of hours of free media a week, has a strong base financial support. But being embraced by these big donors is also a potential liability. If Haley appears to be preferred candidate of Democrats, globalists, corporations, and the swamp, she risks looking like Republican Party's Hillary Clinton. Many of the attacks Haley faced in last week's debate painted in exactly that way, revealing her vulnerability as she comes under the scrutiny of opponents. DeSantis and Ramaswamy have made clear comparisons between Clinton and Haley. In particular, they focused on how Haley used her previous positions in public office serve on the boards of multinational